My name is Centopani. I'm a professional bodybuilder. That means I eat a lot. Luckily, I love to cook as much as I love to eat. For me, it's essential to not only eat in a way that supports my goals, but is as enjoyable and as healthy as possible. Follow along. We'll cook, we'll eat, and who knows what else. This is Evan's World. Done. You want to get nuts? Come on, we'll get fucking nuts. Oh. What's up, guys? We got something to prepare today that I think you guys are really gonna like. We eat a lot of chicken, and chicken gets very boring, but for whatever reason, a roast chicken is like an entirely different animal altogether. So what we're gonna do is we are going to roast the chicken. We're gonna have an herb roasted chicken, and I'm gonna boil some potatoes. We're gonna make boiled rosemary potatoes, and we're gonna make some broccoli rabe sauteed with garlic. It's gonna be a really good meal, right? We're gonna have a nice quality protein. We're gonna have good starch, and because we're boiling it, it's not gonna be fried or bathed in oil to roast them or anything like that. And this is just gonna be, the broccoli rabe will be sauteed with a little bit of olive oil, but it's gonna be a really flavorful, and otherwise, I'm gonna call it a healthy meal. What I'm gonna do first is half the chicken. So I'm just gonna go right down the back of it, all right? Open it up, same thing, right down the middle, nice and easy. All right, so now it's in half. Why did I cut it in half? Rather than leave it whole, I feel like when you have the chicken, it cooks a little bit more uniformly. I'm just gonna put it out on a baking sheet right here. Put it with just a little bit of olive oil. Don't freak out, it's just gonna cook off anyways. And depending on how conscious you are of your fat intake, you can make the decision to remove the skin or to eat it. Personally, I'm gonna eat it. It's my off season. You better believe I'm gonna eat that. Now I've got some poultry seasoning. Usually, I'm not into pre-made seasonings so much. This one happens to be a good one though. It's got sage, thyme, onion, marjoram, black pepper, celery seed, and cayenne. I mean, you can use whatever herbs you want. Hit it with some parsley, oregano, fresh dill, whatever. And of course, whatever ingredients are in here, you could opt for just the fresh versions of those if you want. But looking to kind of get this done quick, and this is what I've got on hand. This should be perfect. That's it. I'm just gonna pop it in the oven that I have preheated to 375. We're just gonna bake it. Now, potatoes. Most people don't eat boiled potatoes. Usually they bake them instead. Boiled, if you do it with enough salt, they come out great. Not only flavor, but also texture. Plus it's quick. And they're not so dry. Like baked potatoes can sometimes be dry. And for whatever reason, potatoes just go so well with chicken. Unlike a lot of other starch sources, they're not a grain, right? Potato is a root vegetable. So what does that mean? Generally means it should be a little bit less inflammatory. Carbohydrates are notoriously inflammatory. Not always a bad thing per se. Most of us though have more than enough inflammation going on in our bodies to begin with, and we don't really need any extra of it. And it's not really protein or fats that are so inflammatory as it is the carbohydrates, which could be good for growth, maybe not the greatest thing for overall health and well-being, but I guess the key thing here is balance. So if you are eating quite a bit of carbohydrates and or foods that are inflammatory, then be sure to balance them out with foods that are anti-inflammatory, especially like a lot of leafy green vegetables. Once they're peeled, I'm going to cube them, throw them in the pot, and we're going to boil them with some fresh rosemary. And the rosemary is going to infuse into the water, and all the essence of the rosemary, along with the sea salt that we're going to throw in there, it's going to be picked up by the potatoes. It's going to be delicious. You know, the potatoes are supposed to be good for soothing burns. That if you get a burn, you'd put a fresh potato, you'd rub it on the spot. I don't know. Never tried it. I'm not kidding either. It's not like I would tell you something ridiculous just so you go try it and make yourself look like a jerk. I remember my grandmother used to make potato water. I don't know what she would do with that. I used to find a lot of crazy shit in her refrigerator. She would make jello molds, gelatin molds, right? She would take all these like scrap foods and mix them into a gelatin mold, and there'd be like fucking peas and carrots and hunks of ham and stuff like that in a jello mold. That's some straight up Depression era cooking right there. Now they don't all have to be, you know, the exact same shape, but do try to get them relatively the same size, because otherwise you're boiling them, right? And some of them are going to be ready and the other ones aren't going to be ready. So inevitably some of them are going to be overdone by the time they're all done, which you don't want, because you don't want the potatoes to be mushy and falling apart. Now these are like a gold potato rather than a russet, which nutritionally no different, but a little bit different flavor. They're a little bit more almost buttery tasting and a little bit better texture. Not quite as crumbly as a russet, but also not as waxy as a red potato. I'm just going to take the rosemary, put it in there, fill it with some water, and before we put it on the stove, just need to add some salt. Now, I've done this many times, so I know exactly how much salt I want to add. Always better to add a little bit less than too much, because once you've added too much, you're fucked. So for a pot this size, it's probably about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. Put these on the stove. I'm not going to turn them on yet because I'm going to wait for the chicken to catch up. Actually, before we go any further, what is broccoli rabe? You may be asking, and I've asked myself before. Surprisingly, it doesn't really have anything to do with broccoli. I assume it got the name because it has these little florets which resemble those of broccoli. But surprisingly, it's related to the turnip. But all we really need to know is that it's a nice dark leafy green, high in potassium, fiber, really no starches, just a good vegetable source, and it's bitter. So why is that significant? Well, any vegetable that's bitter in nature, like dandelion greens, are notoriously good for your liver, because for whatever reason they cause the expulsion of bile from the liver, and that helps with the digestion of fats, which is why you'll oftentimes see bitter greens combined with a higher fat meal. So a lot of times you'll see broccoli rabe with pork or dandelion greens with red meat, and that's for a reason, because it'll aid the digestion of those kind of heavy fat-laden foods. Even though nothing we're having today is especially fat-laden, this is going to be a really good side to the roast chicken and the boiled potatoes. What we're going to do is we're going to saute the broccoli rabe with fresh garlic. Now, most of you know that garlic is very good for you. Why is it good for you? First of all, one of the best things that garlic does, it's a really strong natural antibiotic, great antiviral and antifungal. It's so strong, in fact, that if you were to eat enough of it, it will actually wipe out good bacteria in your system as well. So, I mean, you know, that's not something we have to worry about in the quantity in which we're going to use it, but garlic is definitely a great thing. I've even heard it be said that as a remedy for a cold or, you know, viruses, things like that, that people would take a clove of garlic, cut it open, and dab a little bit of oil on a person's foot. Then take the clove of garlic and rub it around and around and around, and that the garlic will actually get into your system that way. Is it true? I have no idea. Try it. Worst case scenario, you walk around with your feet smelling like garlic. But it's also good for your heart. Now, a lot of people will take garlic in the form of pills, and you'll see it rated in terms of how much allicin it contains. And supposedly the allicin is a chemical that's actually formed when the garlic is chopped and smashed and, you know, just mashed up and exposed. We're gonna do a little bit of that, not too much, because what I don't want is for the garlic to get lost. What I like to do is leave the garlic cloves in large pieces. So that way, if you don't want to eat it, you don't have to. What I do is just take the end off it, just put your knife on it and smash, and the skin will come off much easier that way. And you can just saute it like that and leave it in larger pieces. So the flavor will get into it, but you don't have to go eating all that garlic if you don't want to. Some people, garlic upsets their stomach. So garlic may not be this universally healthy choice for everyone, but sure as hell does taste good. What we're gonna do is get this pan going, put a little bit of olive oil in there, probably about two tablespoons. Just gonna take the ends off of that. I'm gonna cut it basically just in half. I don't like the pieces too long. Now I like to, like I said, I like to leave these garlic pieces whole, more or less, and keep the oil. Like if we would put this in right now in the pan and the oil were to sizzle, the garlic will start to burn, and we don't want that flavor. We want the garlic to just be kind of more in the background, not taking center stage. See how our chicken's doing. All right, the garlic's at a perfect point right now. I'm going to put the broccoli rabe in the pan. Now you can hear it's just making a little bit of crackling sound. Like if you put it in, it was popping on. That means the heat's too high, because you don't want to be adding, you know, the broccoli rabe has some moisture in it, you know, still some water in it from when I rinsed it, which is good because that'll help it to steam. But adding that to a pan with a lot of hot oil, it will pop, and you don't want that. So you want the heat to be low enough before you go adding, you know, something with vegetables with moisture to a pan with oil. And I'm gonna put the lid on this and just let it steam. We've timed things pretty well. Everything is done pretty much at the exact time. So I'm gonna start pulling stuff off the heat, show you guys what everything looks like, plate some up, and then eat. Oh, I wish you guys could smell in here. Between the rosemary coming off the potatoes, a little bit of garlic and the smell of the greens. Oh, and the roast chicken. I mean, it smells good in here. All right, let's plate some of this up. So that's a breast, a thigh, and a leg. I'm gonna cut a little bit of lemon to go on the greens. I mean, come on, that's gonna be good. You know that's gonna be good just by looking at it. And you know, it's really not, you know, from a nutrition perspective, I mean, there's a little bit of olive oil in the greens, which is certainly not a bad thing. There's nothing in the potatoes, it's boiled, but they're gonna taste really great between the salt and the rosemary. And then on the chicken, should you decide to take the skin off, I mean, that's lean too. But like I said, I'm gonna eat that. This is gonna be great. I can't wait to sit down and eat this. I hope you guys try this, because I think you'll really enjoy it. Try to enjoy your food. For more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned, and I appreciate you guys watching. Check out Centopani.com. I'm Evan Centopani. See you guys later.